I move around a lot.
Actual video,
so,
I can sign it here. So. No, okay.
Let's see what we can do. I can pass this.
Correct.
It's not really helping anybody else out, though, right? So.
Right. This is just for
right.
Montana Public Radio. It's called
I don't care for this really. All right. What's that? Are you guys all squared away and okay? All right. Are we good? Are you mic'd up and Jill's mic'd up for that kind of thing? Is that okay? So when I'm done, I'll just give this to you guys. I'm not going to pass this mic to them on the chest, so.
What about
all right.
The one you're wearing?
Yeah, there's two of these. That's a goat rope.
It's not going to be a smooth transition.
There's a couple other terms that I use.
Yeah, no, all right. Are we good? You guys all kind of ready? So I appreciate everybody coming, absolutely, and for what's going on. So my name is Jeff Brandt, and I'm the Missoula Fire Department Fire Chief, and I'll be running this meeting today. Also included in this briefing is Nick Holloway. He's a representative from Office of Emergency Management. He's the program director. And we have Travis Kraft, who is the Western Central Avalanche Center director. And they'll be speaking today on some of our alerting and some of our Travis is certainly a subject matter expert. So. Just an overview of kind of what's happened since this weekend and the severity, the severe weather that we've had with storms came in and the high winds. Certainly we realize the potential and the changing conditions up on the hill. So since this weekend, through the year and continuously, but certainly since the weather event this weekend, we've continuously monitored the situation up on the hill. We closed public access Tuesday morning and then have continually tried to figure out a plan and safest route to get up onto that mountain and figure out what's going on up there. At that point in time, we were able to reach out to Travis and his crew, and they were able to go up on the mountain yesterday and again today, and they will be reporting those situations that are found up there. So with that, Travis, will you come up and he'll talk about what happened up on Jumbo and what the conditions and stuff that he saw yesterday and today.
Travis, if you could spell your name too, that may help.
Traviscraft.
So we'll pause for
There's just two things. Thank you.
Well, most people will get 15 seconds of this interview.
Okay, so we've been in contact with the city. We've been contracted to help evaluate the snowpack on Mount Jumbo and the foothills around Missoula. And what basically prompted this was we had very similar conditions, a weather pattern that was very reminiscent of what happened in 2014. So the main thing to remember is the Avalanche Center issues backcountry avalanche advisories, and that doesn't really correlate to what we're seeing right now on Mount Jumbo. We're seeing dangerous avalanche conditions and a snowpack that we see nowhere else in our advisory area. And my team and I yesterday went and assessed the east side and west slopes of Mount Jumbo, and what we found was a snowpack that is definitely able to produce avalanches. I would quote it as dangerous avalanche conditions are present there. And working with the preemptive closure that we had on the mountain, we're trying to limit access to the mountain, because what we have is we have a recipe for an avalanche, and what we're looking for is a trigger. And a trigger can be an artificial trigger or a natural trigger. The natural trigger would be another loading event of wind and snow that we would work with the city to evaluate that, as well as an artificial trigger would be recreationalists. So the primary concern, what we're looking at, this area right here, is where it slid in 2014. What we saw this morning when we went up there, before we even got onto the slopes, we saw an elk-triggered slide right here that was 75 feet across, 2.5, 3 feet deep, and it ran about 800 vertical feet. It didn't reach the valley floor this time, but that's what we found today. We also found an unstable snowpack, and basically what we encourage the people to do is anyone that's butted up against Mount Jumbo, what we're seeing, if you have residents there, is don't play in your backyards. Don't go out onto those steep slopes, because you can not only trigger avalanches from above, like if we were like what we had in 2014, you could also trigger an avalanche just by walking in this area. So please respect the closures, because what this is it's a community event, and all of us taking care of our community, and it's a public safety issue. That's what I have as well for snowpack. Pardon?
Walking trigger areas, low areas.
So basically, if we're looking in your backyards. And we also have another place that we would also think about that are just a couple places over on Mount Sentinel as well, near Maurice Avenue. There was a report of a small slide triggered on a steep road bank over there.
And we'll have the ability to ask questions. We're going to run through, finish up with Travis, what's going on and what's happening at this point, and then we'll have the ability to ask questions. All right? So Nick, why don't you get mic'd up. Also today we have representatives from different departments. We have Search and Rescue, we have the Sheriff's Office, we have Missoula PD, we've got the Fire Department, we have Travis's team and the Avalanche Center, and we're some Parks and Rec, and so after we're done with this, we'll have the ability to
in this pocket. Thanks, Travis.
What they're doing. So this is Nick Holloway, and he'll present kind of alertness and what's going on with the Office of Emergency Management.
Okay, good afternoon. Nick Holloway with the Office of Emergency Management. This morning at about 11 o'clock, we sent an emergency alert to folks living adjacent to Mount Jumbo on the west side and east side of the mountain. The alerts asked people to stay off the mountain first and foremost in order to minimize the risk of human-triggered avalanches, and we also asked folks to report any activity they do see to 911 so that we can make sure to get people off the mountain. We are asking also that people sign up for this, and if there were, people can sign up for Smart 911 at smart911.com. It's always a good thing to be on that list, so we highly, highly recommend that. That's all I really have for today.
Okay.
Next time maybe we'll set up a podium and a sprinkler system, but all right, so at this point we'll just kind of go over what's happening certainly in the last 24 hours. And so all access to Mount Jumbo has been closed and signed. We've got extra patrols by PD and the Sheriff's Department looking for activity around that mountain. We have contracted with Travis and his team basically on standby, or as weather changing events happen, which obviously there's some severe weather again this weekend forecasted. So we have Travis and his team contracted to help us out when needed. We're asking the public to stay alert and certainly appreciate this venue to start that off for changing alerts, changing conditions, and then what we can push out together. And we'll be doing that through you great folks and also through our media outlets as well through the city. And on the mountain, again, all access is closed, so other than maybe seeing Travis and his team up there, there really should be no one up on that mountain. So we can roll into preparedness, and we could dive into some of the rabbit holes or weeds of that, but I don't believe that's necessary. I will tell you and stand before you to tell you that this community, the Office of Emergency Management, and all of its agencies, sheriff, the search and rescue, fire departments, law enforcement, the airport even, we are all working together, learning lessons from 2014 and making appropriate decisions and command staff decisions to respond accordingly to any situation that comes. And so one of my last points is that this being a difficult situation is that in our, and I'll speak to my world is of fire, is that in a wildland fire scenario, we can tell people, hey, look and go to firewise.com, and we can tell you to start watering your grass. We can ask for you to move your wood pile away from your structure in your home, clean your needles out of your gutters and the valleys of your home, and make sure your vegetation, your understory is cut. This is not that situation. We don't have a solid platform to tell you how to try to prepare yourself as best with a snow situation above your home. So what we are asking is to stay alert. We will do our best to communicate changing weather conditions, and the biggest thing we can control are those human activities up there, so that personnel do not cause that and then harm, as we've seen in the past with property and loss of life. From there, we can start opening up to any questions. Jill?
How about Sentinel? Like, can people go up the M Trail, and what about some of the other areas, or is this situation just unique to Jumbo?
It is not unique to Jumbo. I'll just real quick that in 14, there were slides that occurred on Sentinel on the South Hills. But I will stop there and turn this over to Travis and have him talk about those conditions in that surrounding area. And I don't know what we want to do here, so. A little clunky. I hope you talk longer than it takes us to transfer.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll go from there. So Mount Sentinel, if you look at the slope maps that we have on Mount Sentinel, it's nowhere near as steep as Jumbo. The points that I taught, some of the aspects that we're worried about on Sentinel are the ones we already discussed earlier. It's those steeper, shorter road cuts that near Maurice and things like that. There are some other steep terrain outside in the foothills, and those should be treated with caution as well. So what we're looking for is staying off of any terrain that's over 30 degrees. So if you feel like you're walking up a set of stairs, you're in avalanche terrain. So we just recommend that people stay out of steep terrain. That's the best way to keep yourself safe. Shoot.
Travis, a couple of things. Any thought over the past, 6-7 days about charges, setting off something to preempt a situation like this?
So urban avalanches are a very unique phenomenon. In Europe, they deal with them a lot just with their population densities. We're unique in North America. The places you can look for urban avalanches are Juneau in Alaska. There are some places in Sun Valley outside of Ketchum. We are one now, as we proved in 2014, as well as with the avalanche conditions that we saw today. And there's also a couple places outside of Big Sky in Bozeman. And the problem with mitigation techniques like that, using charges in that, is we're endangering what's below us. So when my team and I go up to the mountain, we're very careful about getting any starting zones that we have the potential that we could knock something down that could run to the valley floor. So with charges and things like that, you can't keep, you're going to cause property damage and potentially put people at risk. It's not, go ahead.
Even 4 or 5 days ago, when we really started to get hit with all this snow.
Mitigation techniques would have to be something that we would work out with the city, but what happened is 4 or 5 days ago is we had a little bit of snow. So if we remember in 2014, basically the one nice thing about jumbo is we do have, from 2014, what we found out is by looking at that incident, we have a recipe for when we should start being concerned about Mount Jumbo. And that is, we have a snowpack that stays on Mount Jumbo. It doesn't melt out. And then we have significant Hellgate winds out of the east. And we get a blizzard warning with a large amount of snow. And if you look at our history of our weather, it almost matches exactly where we are right now.
How concerned are you about what's going to move in Friday evening?
We're going to monitor. We're going to monitor and take precautions as necessary and make recommendations to what we need to do.
When might you prompt evacuations?
That is all dictated by evaluation and weather and what the snowpack's doing. So the best thing that you can think about is all the snowpack is it's a history of our weather events.
Are there any preventative measures your team can take now to kind of help prevent this from happening?
Mitigation techniques involve blowing charges, and we don't have clean paths for those places to run without them going into homes, endangering people. The biggest thing that we can do is respect the closures, stay out of your backyards, stay out of steep terrain.
Aside from the gully that's where the sites are right now, are there any other spots on Jumbo that your survey found?
So if we remember, I'm not going to get the date correct, but one of the other fatalities on Mount Jumbo was from the 12-year-old with the camera. I believe it was the early 90s. That's what sticks there. And that was on the east. That was on the east side towards East Missoula, and we looked at those gullies, and those gullies are still in the same shape that look very reminiscent of those pictures. So those would also be problem areas as well. And the biggest way to do that is stay out of, respect the closures.
Can you show us where those gullies are?
Okay, if I can dig through my pockets. Perfect. So here we are in the Rattlesnake. We switch over here. These are the gullies here on them. Here's another one, and there's a little bit of terrain in here too.
Is this sort of right at the East Missoula exit there?
On those East Missoula exits right here, you can see it as you're coming out on the frontage road and on the highway. There's the beginning of East Missoula. There's the Sinclair station, so you can look up in here. There's the
Would you have different evacuation plans of different levels of evacuations that happen?
That is going to be our recommendations and working with the proper channels with the city.
So again, probably the biggest push would be what are, if you do see activity up there, currently 911 they are stood up to receive those calls, and we'll have literally the same messaging we've been giving you here today. So, any other questions, sir?
So we don't accidentally cause a panic when we see somebody on top of the mountain? Do you guys have a schedule for when you'll be there, or some other way we can?
We don't have a schedule, but what we do is when there's activity similar to when we go out and train, or PD or the fire department are holding training activities, we will go ahead when we know that Travis and his team will be up there. We'll call 911 so that people that are calling in will be able, they'll know that, say, yes, that's what these people are doing.
Don't be a question. Did the city call this emergency, or county, or I just want to, who got this ball rolling officially, I guess?
The city of Missoula.
City of Missoula, okay.
Yes, sir. Any other questions?
Would you guys set up shelters if that were to happen? Would that be something you guys are considering as well for your
when we roll into a declaration of disaster, then yes, those are all types of what we look for. Is I don't know if the city would be setting up shelters, but we have a lot of community involvement as we've had in the past throughout forest fires, flooding, and that sort of thing. So does that kind of answer your question?
Thank you.
Again, if there's anything that we haven't answered, come see us after that, after the breakout. Again, we have representatives from Parks and Rec, Search and Rescue, County, City, PD available to answer any other questions. So thanks for coming, and we appreciate coming out today.
Are there any neighborhood representatives here? I'm just curious.
Who had the clip?
I think that's me. Ours broke off.
It's usually us. Thank you for being,
If we were doing it live, it's really sound.
Oh, we are?
yeah, we on the street, yeah.
You did great.